Are you interested in the idea of creating content but not quite sure where to start? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm speaking with a 63-year-old lady who's interested in the idea of starting a new business but not quite sure how to get going. So let's go.
This is the business of art.
G'day everybody, a little bit of a different video today. Normally what I talk about is within the artistic fields, but today I'm branching out a little bit differently. So this is actually a conversation that I recorded, as I mentioned, with a 63-year-old lady who, in all honesty, she's not quite sure she's going to have enough to retire on unless she does something very, very quickly to help boost her income over the next few years. So she and I have been chatting on and off about the idea of her starting some kind of consultancy business in her sector, which is actually in childcare. So this was just a raw conversation recorded partly for her records to refer back to, and I got permission to share it here on the channel because I think there's enough information in there that's really valuable for us in our artistic fields and our artistic businesses as well. The principles that we talk about in here, the concepts of how to really kind of look at the simplest way to start, I think can apply to all of us. And so I'm really, really keen to share this just as a piece of just looking at the same kind of thing that we want to talk about, but just from a different angle. And sometimes we can see things clearly when we see it for someone else. So I hope you get a lot out of this, and I'll see you on the other side.
You need to basically know who you want to talk to. So who is really going to be your target market? So are you going to aim things at childcare centre directors? Because you can create something through whatever we kind of work on building. Can you create something that's going to make their job easier? That kind of thing. So we need to work out who that is. And we need to work out, so what we need to do in order to get a little bit of attention for you is be releasing content regularly that is valuable to those people, so that you become a resource of information that makes their life easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So you need to decide what your content, what your chosen communication is going to include. So there are three methods of communication that we use today: the written word, the spoken word, and video. So in today's world, like a blog post, website type blog post, articles, and there's, you know, you can put them on your own website, but then also share them on places like LinkedIn and that kind of stuff. And I think there's probably Facebook groups that are for childcare workers, childcare directors. You can join those Facebook groups if you're not already, and just share your content. Hey, here's a new article based on this compliance issue that I know people struggle with. Hope it helps you. And you can put that, into, you know, those Facebook groups just to share that knowledge, so that people start to associate you with sharing valuable knowledge that makes their life easier in their job. Okay, so that's, you know, written word, blog posts, articles, whatever. Spoken word, so a podcast, which is really the kind of audio version, and video, so you talking or doing an interview like this, talking about stuff, or talking directly to camera about the things that you know are going to make someone's life easier in that job. Okay, so they're the three things. Now you can use all three of those, and you can multi-purpose one piece of content across all three of those platforms. So for instance, if I sat and interviewed you and said, hey, tell me about this compliance issue number 12, what is the biggest struggle that you had as a director in there, and what were your biggest challenges with that, but how did you overcome it? What are the things that you put in place? What were the simple hacks and fixes that you have put in place in that job that made that just so easy to maintain and you didn't have to think about it? So how did you kind of batch compliance issues together? You know, so I might ask you questions like that, and you just answer it like you would if we were chatting. So we can kind of do an interview style, so that you don't have to be direct to camera if that's not comfortable for you. But say you are comfortable doing a camera version, some kind of interview or direct to camera thing on camera, right? So you put that on a YouTube channel, then you can strip the audio from that and turn that audio into a podcast. So you're using the same piece of content in a different format, because different people will find it and listen to it. So a lot of people that are watching YouTube yes, a lot of them are listening to podcasts, but a lot of them aren't. And so it just gives you another backup medium to be able to use that audio. And then you can get that audio transcribed into a written word, and with a few edits, it becomes a blog post article that you can put on a website, share on LinkedIn, share in a Facebook group. You can also share the video or the audio in the Facebook groups as well. So, but the important thing is that the content, what we create and share, has to be valuable to the person that you're aiming it for. So, and then we've got to get attention and eyes on it. So, that might take time. That could take 3 to 6 months to really get a little bit of traction with some really dedicated work on getting the eyeballs on it. But if it's good content, the minute people see 1 or 2 videos or podcasts or articles from you based around that content that is making them have an easier time doing their job, they're going to be more interested in subscribing or following or going to your website or using you as a reference and a resource. And the great thing that you've got behind you is how many years as a childcare director? Like 20 or something?
No, as a director, just over 10.
Oh, okay. So it's still, over 10 years is massive leverage. Like, that's a massive achievement, right? So that's really great. Was it 1 or 2 conferences that you delivered in Asia?
1, 2, 3. Okay, so
You spoke at conferences?
yeah, I did 2 for teachers and 1 for parents.
Great. So 3 international speaking opportunities, right? You are an international speaker. We can put that on your bio, on your website, right? That's a big deal. That you were sought out and invited to speak internationally on this subject matter.
Yeah.
That adds massive leverage and massive proof to the value of the content that you can deliver. All right, so all of that stuff is just tremendous. And so we just package all of that, and then we start to build the content, and we start sharing that content and releasing that content before you even have a client. Because what that does is, while you're setting things up and getting used to kind of how it works, no one's really going to watch the first few videos and that kind of thing while you work a way out about how you want to do that and what's comfortable for you. But what it does is, when somebody eventually does find that or see that, because we run some paid traffic to your website or some paid traffic to your YouTube channel or your podcast or whatever, there's already 8, 10, 15 pieces of content, valuable pieces of content that have been released, fairly regularly, that provides great value.
No.
It's current, it's up to date, that kind of thing. And so then that means that someone's going to look at that. Hopefully they're going to go, oh, compliance point number 12, I hate that one. What does she do for that? Cool. And so you might get someone to binge on your content, which is awesome, right? So all of that basically is delivering the concept of somebody getting to know you, getting to like you in the way that you deliver the content, and trusting you to deliver it and support that. So that way, when you get to the point of being ready to go, okay, cool, here is something that we can offer that, is something that we can capture them on an email list. So we go, here's a free checklist here's a free PDF that shows you how to bundle all of these compliance issues together for the minimum amount of effort to meet compliance, which is the stuff that you were talking about weeks ago that you used to do. So that might be something that's really super valuable to somebody that's working in a childcare centre, because you're providing something that is potentially going to save them a lot of time and a lot of effort. And ultimately, that's what we've got to think about. What's in it for them, right? And that could be very, very interesting to somebody. They jump in, get on your email list, and then once you've got a bit of an email list going, the minute you've even got one person on your email list, whenever you release a piece of content, you're letting them know through your email list. And so a lot of people are scared about creating an email list because they think they have to, talk weekly and that kind of thing about what they're doing. But there's a couple of really simple ways to actually communicate with value to an email list that isn't spammy. One of them is, I've just released a new piece of content. Here's the link to it on video. Here's the link to it on podcast, if that's your preference. Or if you prefer to read it, you can check it out on the website here. And so you're creating, basically, you're just promoting the fact that you put something out and it's valuable for them. It's about this, a little bit of a brief spiel about it. And then what you can do is during the week, you take one idea from that and just extrapolate it out, just expand on it a little bit more. And it only needs to be, 2, 3, 500 words. And that becomes another email that you might send during the week, which just, again, reinforces a little bit more depth of knowledge in that particular area. But all of that, you got to get used to doing it and into a bit of a pattern and a rhythm. And that can take a few weeks, a couple of months to kind of get into that, right? You've got to build some of that out. So, none of this happens overnight. But what it does is over time, it proves the sustainability of your understanding, the content that you create and that you put out is valuable. People become interested in hearing it, seeing it. Then that's what leads to you becoming established as a leader in that space. And then that's the sort of thing that leads to potential speaking gigs, being contacted to go, hey, can you come and help us at our centre to do this? It means that you can then look at, we find ways once you've got some audience, there's a really great thing by some marketers called just a 9-word email, where you can just send an email to your email list, and it might be something simple like, hey, just wondering, what are you struggling with the most at the moment in compliance? And there will be a number of people who respond back to that. And then that gives you specific information about how you can help that person. So that might be that you can send them, I talked about that, in this video here, here's a link, and so you might be able to help them through content you've already created. Or that might be then the impetus for the next piece of content that you create. It might be, I'll do a video on that next week instead of this other one that I was thinking about, or I'll film that, but you might be scheduling ahead of time, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And so it's not as daunting as it sounds if you've got the confidence to back yourself as an expert in that field, right? Do you see yourself as a leader in that field?
I'm really not sure. Really?
So what would you expect from a leader in that field? What level of experience would you want from someone in that field to say that, hey, that person's a leader in this field? How long would you want to have them in the job?
I don't know whether
2 years, 5 years,
probably,
10 years.
Yeah, at least a couple of years.
At least 2 or at least 5.
Yeah, 2.
So anything, if you've been a director in a childcare centre for over 2 years, you would consider that person definitely a leader in the field as part of the mix. Not by itself maybe, but...
No, probably if they've survived 5,
okay,
then they're
right.
doing
So now,
well.
so we're starting to get some benchmarks, okay? Yeah. So somebody needs to really, in your mind, be in the job at least 5 years successfully. What about a compliance rate? Like, how successful should their compliance checks have been? Should that be 100%? Anything above 85? What's a pass rate in compliance? Is it 100% for what you've got to do? Like when the department comes out and does a compliance check?
Yeah.
I mean, you ultimately need to get to 100%.
Yeah.
But what would you say is an acceptable rate that, they come out, they check, you go, well, you've got this many things that you need to fix.
Because they'll come out, they find a few things, you've got so many weeks to get them up to date.
So, because there is a certain level where you hit where they become a lot more vigilant about how they check you. So what is that that top layer of, we've come out, we've checked, there's a few things you've got to fix up, get them fixed, let us know, and they don't bother you again. What's the kind of percentage of things not right that sits within? 5%.
Anything over 5%. If there's more than 5%,
becomes a problem.
Becomes a problem.
So if you've got a compliance rate on first check of 95% or better, then you would consider that person to be definitely a leader in the field.
Yeah.
What other things would you expect from a leader in this field? How do you define someone as being a successful director? What does that mean to you when you think about a successful childcare director?
Someone who can manage their staff well.
Okay.
Manage the office well.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Right. And parent interaction.
Okay. So we can sum some of that up with the results of that would be a low staff turnover because they're managing the staff well, great interactions, people feel like they want to stay.
Yeah.
So did you have a high turnover or a low turnover?
Very low turnover.
Great. So that's a great indicator. What was the next one? You had parents in there.
Parent interaction. So yeah.
So happy parents
yeah.
satisfaction rates. People
return,
coming back to bring their kids all the time.
Yeah.
What was your turnover rate of kids? Did you have a lot of kids coming and going, or were they long-term stayers?
Oh, long-term stay. We had a lot of repeat parents.
Great. So great indicator there. What was the other one that you mentioned? Should have written those down as we talked. Oh, we got them on there, so we'll have a look at that later. But anyway, so there's 2 to start with, right? So far, over 5 years in the industry, low staff turnover, long-term and repeat customer base, compliance of 95% or above consistently.
Yeah.
Do you fit all of those things?
Yeah.
Right. Let's add a stupid one out there. What if someone was an international speaker on the subject? Oh, do you fit that one? Right?
Yeah.
Are you a leader in this field?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just that nobody else knows it yet.
Right.
So now we have to tell them, and we do that by sharing content that shows them that you can help them.
So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope that you got something valuable out of that you can take away and apply to your own artistic business. If you're ever interested in chatting further, please feel free to hit me up. Would love you to hit like and subscribe because that tells me that this kind of content is valuable to you as well. And of course, if you found something valuable in this today, there's a good chance you know somebody else who would find it valuable as well. So please make sure they get to see it. Share it with them, tag them in the comments below, whatever you've got to do to pay it forward and help them out too. See you next time.